Hello and welcome back to the U Up podcast. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I am Jared Freid. It is so good to be back here with you, Jordana. How are you? What's going on? Good to see you.
Things are good. Good to see you. It is, to not bury the lead, today is a very special day.
Yes.
It is the worst day of the year.
The worst day of the year, February 21st. We have it every year, also known as my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Today, we were recording on Valentine's Day, so it is not...
Also, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
yes.
Valentine's Day. It's very hard. It's very weird when we record these because you have to acknowledge the day you're recording, but then also the day it airs. So 2 big days. It's Valentine's Day, but it's also your birthday when this airs.
It's truly my birthday. I
Yes.
mean, for the people at home, I guess we have to live with them in the future.
Yes.
And
I'm sure you're gonna get
you.
a ton of DMs. Happy birthday!
The worst day of the year. If you don't know this story, if you're a new listener here, Jordana famously, we came on Zoom and the minute we opened, I was like, "How are you, Jordana?" The way we do every opening of every show.
This is 2020, I think.
2021 maybe. Yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
And I was in Boca, you're in New York, and you're like, literally like, I go, "How are you, Jordana?" And you just go into this like
Rant.
soliloquy rant on how, it's February 21st. It's the worst day. You're not in summer. You're not in spring. It's cold. There's nothing to look forward to. And I let you go
on and on and
about
on.
how horrible
you were
February
like
21st.
you were like, tell me more. Like,
Yes.
like what else is horrible?
And finally, I revealed it was actually my birthday. So now, a long-running joke that I really do love. Like, I love when people are like, the worst day of the year.
Well, that's what I love about you is that you can make fun of yourself. You can own it. You're not trying to defend the day. You're not trying to be like, actually, it's not that bad.
I get why it stinks. Today...
Great day for your mom.
Freezing. Good day for her, I guess. You got me out of you.
I mean, for the first, she's been it's the anniversary of her becoming a mother.
That's right. It's more her special day than mine.
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and if you came to the New York City shows, thank you. Want to thank you. I'm thanking you in the future.
I'll be there.
Jordana's gonna be there. I mean,
I was there.
She was there. Is there? I'm so confused. 2 sold-out shows right now we're heading towards a second show sellout. Like we're hovering. And I'm calling it a sellout. Big venue.
That's a big venue. Incredible.
I'm humbled. I hate when people say that.
I mean, you've sold thousands of tickets.
It's 1,400 seats each show, so that's a lot of seats. That's like 2,800 people.
That's a shit ton of seats. That's amazing.
And I'm sure it went well because I'm fully prepared. I mean, those of you.
Here's the thing. I've seen this show already.
Yeah.
And Mike's seen this show already. And a week ago, he was like, "Are we going to Jared's show?" I'm like,
"That's cool.
Do you want?" And we live like an hour outside the city.
You guys.
And he's like, "Yeah, I really want to go again."
That's
so
awesome.
That's a testament to, and we're not like even enthusiastic people. We don't even like shit that much, as you know. I'm a hater.
Yeah. Yes,
and
you
we were
started
like,
betches.
We're going into the city to see the show again because it's a really, really funny show. It's very, very funny.
I'm hoping it improved. It should have improved since when you saw it. I'm excited for you to see the new parts of it.
Yeah, it's like 6 months later.
Angles,
to see as it's come along.
Tinkering with it in the shop. It's exciting because, the Netflix special was a huge, amazing thing. But, a life lesson that I kind of took away from it is like, you have to move on from things to grow. I mean, like, it seems so that's so stupid. I'm not saying new information.
No, I mean, we talk about that with relationships all the time. Relationships, you've said it, I think you're the first person that said it to me, that relationships are like sharks.
Well, that's a Woody Allen.
Right. I heard of it. I heard the quote.
They
quote from you.
Keep moving or they die. Yeah. And that is the thing. Like this show that I'm doing now, like I never could have told these jokes if I didn't get those other ones out of my system. So it does feel like a growth for my stand-up. So, and again, let me pimp my dates before we get into this episode real early. Plug City. Boston's already sold out. I'm in Toronto. There's a second show. Chicago, I think that's almost gone. Charleston, Minneapolis, Royal Oak, Michigan, Boise, Olympia, Washington, Vancouver, Denver, San Francisco, McKee Rock, Pennsylvania. That's Pittsburgh. Added to the calendar. Columbus, Los Angeles, New Orleans, Dallas, Nashville.
Love it.
JaredFree.com for tickets.
Jared,
So.
I mean, let's circle back to your birthday.
Yes.
And I know it's not technically your birthday yet as of the recording, but it's the birthday when it airs. So I want to ask you how you anticipate you're going to be doing on your birthday.
I'm not a big birthday guy. I get very reflective. I'm not a big gifts guy, receiving or giving. I think gifts are just.
It's funny. For some reason, I had like in my head, I'm like, imagine if you replace that with like oral sex.
I will fuck, but I will not give or receive oral.
Yes.
I will insert the penis, and that is all.
Would you say then that you wouldn't be a match for someone who was like a huge birthday person? Do you think?
I need people to have awareness. Like, I don't know. I understand the reflective nature of a birthday. I do it. Where have I been? Where am I going? It makes me a little sad.
Okay. I think I feel that way too.
Yeah, I think it's normal. I don't think it's crazy to take your birthday. I don't get sad about like, oh, I'm 39. Oh, I'm dying. You know, it's not like that.
How do you feel about 39?
39 feels too old to be single. For me,
right.
I feel like I kind of wonder where it all went for a moment. You go, and then you know, I'm like, was I just drunk like the whole time? Like, I don't know. Like but I mean, I've done it the way I've done it. I'm happy where, you know, I definitely feel like I have a life that if I looked at it, I'd be like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
You know, I
think
nice.
I think objectively people would probably look at that and say that's pretty cool. Is there anything now that you're 39?
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's anything you want to manifest before 40 that you want to get done before 40?
Well, I guess, you know, I've been thinking about like where my living situation a lot.
Okay.
And I'm coming up on, at the end of May, I'm going to have to move out. I don't have to. I'm looking to move out of my apartment in the West Village end of May.
Okay.
I also have an apartment in Harlem that I'd like to sell before then. So these are a lot of moving parts.
If anyone is interested.
If anyone wants a
you probably
one
could
bedroom,
sell it.
if you're out there, 1 bedroom, huge deck. But I also have, you know, so those feel like they're hovering over me, those like tasks. But then my dad, I was in Boca with my dad for his birthday and the Super Bowl. And he's like, you should just move down here. What are you doing? And I never really thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I guess I could do that. You know, it feels very millennial. Like I could live here, I could live there, but I never go anywhere.
Would you live in the community with them?
No, yeah. Yeah,
like with them?
I'd sleep in their bed. We'd be like the Willy Wonka grandparents. No, I would get, you know, a place.
Yeah.
I'd probably do Del Rey. Like I would probably like.
What about the show?
No, that's the thing. You know, you have these things like, would I fly up to New York once a week? Would I? People do these things now.
You do fly.
Enough.
Anyway, yeah, or we could do a week of recording.
Right. We get ahead right now. Yeah. You know. You figure it out, you know, not that this, you know, the show would stay on, you know, but then I'm like, do I want to do that? I like living in New York City. Mm-hmm. I like the weird lifestyle. You know, New York City, the longer you live here, the weirder you are. You're a weirdo.
Yeah.
This is not a way to live. Like what you're doing in the suburbs, like that's to me like a normal, that is like comfy, cozy. That is like a livable lifestyle that like the hours are right. Mm-hmm. New York, you're like, I'm walking places. I sleep in clothes that I wore on a subway. You know, like
You're living.
I'm living.
You're living.
Not to say I'm not living. That's.
I think you are. There is a sense when you move to the suburbs of like, and I know people don't really care about the suburbs talk, but like, I do think when I'm in the city, I'm like, I'm fucking doing shit. Like right. I am like.
No, there's an energy. I mean, that's the douchey thing. There's an energy here.
I mean, it's true. Yeah.
It is true. You got a little pep in your step when you're, you know, when I'm in Florida, I'm like, I guess I could just sit
it feels like anytime you leave the city, it feels like retirement, I think, in some
a little
way,
bit. But, you know, there's a piece of me at 39, you go, do I want life to move on or do I want to live in this stasis forever? And New York, you can be Peter Pan. You can, it is easy to just, you know, be, you know, again, the energy kind of, there's a youthful vibe to like, or you become those like New Yorkers that look like they grew from the ground. You're just like, like tote bags all over you and, you know, weird coats.
That was me this morning. trying to drag all my shit into the city.
Yeah, you got like a gravelly voice. Yeah, I've been living in the Lower East Side for 30 years. You know, like I feel like people kind of turn into that.
Subway creature.
Subway, that could be me. I don't know. There's a lot of indecision. You can probably hear it in me. Like I'm like, but 39 to me kind of feels like I never felt at 27, what am I going to do? You know, like I never felt at 30. Oh my God, 30. What am I going to do? What I got to make sure the next phase of life. And then I see my friends in the next phase of life. I'm happy for them. I'm like, oh man.
But I don't think you look at that and you're like,
I'm not
I wish I had that.
No, I'm more like, it would take a long time to get to that. Like they're all starting to be like,
it feels very far away.
It feels very far away.
Right.
Like, yeah, they've sprinted around on the track of life and they've caught up to me.
Yeah.
But I don't feel behind.
That's what
the
I
other
envy
thing.
about men is that, and again, not all women feel like this, but I feel like there is a sense I think you would feel that way if you were doing open mic nights.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you'd feel like, oh my
I've
God.
wasted my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is sort of, again, I don't think it's better or worse than the pressures you get as a woman, but like I think that's sometimes how you feel as you get to be later in your 30s as a woman if you're single. That's the pressure you feel like as if you were doing open mic nights at 39.
Right. What am I doing here? I've done this already. And for me, yeah, right. Like going on a first date, I do feel a little ridiculous at this age. Mm-hmm. Like combing my hair and getting ready, for the big night and because I'm like, I've done this a million times. Why would this be any different than the last ones? But I also do have a little pep in my step about it. I do go on the date and don't feel that ridiculous. I don't know. It's
I don't think you should feel ridiculous. Again, like I think you'd feel more ridiculous if you were in the suburbs of Boca.
Going on a date.
Yeah.
From a Boca date with some 80-year-old woman.
I'll be honest. Sometimes like even in the suburbs right now with no kids, I'm like, why am I here?
Well, if it makes you feel better, I have a why am I here?
Okay.
I think it goes all ways.
Right.
I think everyone is sitting there.
Should ask themselves, why am I here?
Why am I here? Why? Everyone is doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting,
how did I get here? Why am I here?
Why am I here? Yeah, why am I here is a great question that is unanswerable that you have to kind of be okay with.
Yeah.
I think everyone does that, especially on a birthday. You're like,
what are you going to do on your birthday?
Probably sit alone and look at the moon.
Well, you'll be here recording.
We'll be here recording. I have no plan. I honestly, I haven't even thought of it, actually, to tell you the truth. I'm really excited, not to make it about work, but like the New York shows and the New York, Boston, Toronto on the weeks that, abut my birthday that like go on either side of it. It's like, that's the birthday gift to me.
Right.
Like I'm staying in great hotels. I'm doing what I love. I have a show that I'm proud of. I'm talking about something that I genuinely feel like sometimes you do jokes, sometimes that you're like, I made a promise after the special. I was like, I'm only going to make fun of people I know. I have to care about what I make. Right. Like I want to, right. I only want to tell stories that are true.
Right.
There's some comedians out there that are just making up stories.
Yeah.
To tell you a story, to make you laugh, that's the goal of a comedian. Here's the story to make you laugh. So if you got to make it up.
When it's true.
But I have more fun doing it when it's true. I'm telling true stories about my family that I'm like, I like that my parents are like, their friends came and like loved it. Like, I like that people our age go and love it. I'm kind of in that zone right now. So to be able to go do theaters, like what a fucking blessing. Do a theater in New York, then go to Boston after my birthday, which I'll still be celebrating. You get the week,
you get the week. You can get the whole month if you want. I won't tell anyone.
Yeah, please don't tell anyone. Okay. But I'm staying in like awesome hotels in all three cities.
Yeah.
Or in my room in New York, and then the other places.
I think this is an amazing perspective too. I mean, I think you objectively have a great life, but I also think that like life is really all about your perspective and what you're looking for. And you just described your life and described like all the positive things that you love about it. And it's very easy, no matter what your circumstances, great or shitty, to look at what you don't want or want to be better or feel like is missing.
You can zone in.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's like the key to happiness. Like you seem very happy. And I think the key is like, here's all the things that I'm fucking killing it at. And everyone, and I think especially as you approach a birthday or even a milestone birthday or any birthday, like that's a good thing. That's That's really like your reality is your perspective.
Yeah. And, I guess to jump off of that, the dating, plot line that goes into it, it's like, that's kind of why dating gets harder. Like I saw, you're like, I'm good. Like, you want the person that's going to make it gooder.
Right.
Like, I want to be able to have these things with someone else and be able to be as comfy, cozy as I am right now. No stress sitting in the seat.
Have you thought it could make you comfy, cozier?
I like to think it can, but, the more I date, the more, and I think for me, the problem has been, I've dated some great people that I've kind of moved on from for my own, not because they're not people that have made my life great.
Right.
I hung out with those people for as long as I did because they made my life great. Mm-hmm. But then there was something inside of me that made me move on, and I don't know what that is. I wish I had an answer to that. And that's kind of that's the fun part. That's the scary part. That's the, am I too comfy cozy in this life that I'm like.
Only if you're unhappy, right?
Right. I've also been drinking less lately, so that my perspective,
nice.
Which is nice. Probably only like 3 times this month.
Wow.
And we're on February 14th.
I mean, I feel like from when we'd last spoken about drinking as, the person who's enabled you, in January, like, I feel like you were drinking every night.
I was on a roll.
That's that's a big 3 times a month. It's very different.
Listen, to not drink once in Buffalo, I wouldn't wish that on anyone in the entire world.
Just you and the sticky tables, fully lucid.
Sticky tables. Those people, you have to like be sober around them.
I hope you're not going back there for a while.
I'm digging in now.
Now the show's over.
I put a video up of me making fun of Buffalo. Like my making fun of Buffalo is thoughtful. Right. Like, if I do say so myself. I put up the video on Facebook. If you want to see some real fun comments,
yeah,
the Facebook comments
are
on
they
that,
mad?
So funny. They're just so mad. What does this guy know?
Here's
and
the
it's
thing.
Like, you're not even listening. I just
scared.
said Buffalo, and I go, you guys are insecure. And then they get insecure.
I get so scared of the people who are mad on the internet, because the people who are like okay with being mad on the internet, there's nothing like they wouldn't say. Oh
yeah.
And
No, listen. Some guy wrote, "Oh, I'm sure that guy found a good pizza place there." Like
exactly,
he made fun of
exactly.
how I looked.
Like on the Pookie video, there was like something about like my nose.
Really?
Yeah, where I'm just like, the internet has absolutely no filter. That I'm like always so kind of like, I'm always kind of wondering like if they're just gonna say the thing that you secretly hate about yourself in the back of your head to like, are they gonna pick up on that that's the thing that would actually hurt me? That's the scary thing about it.
It's so scary, but to make you feel better, those always make me laugh the most. That they like literally like were like got the thing that they knew that like this isn't this. Who is this guy? Like that's an idiot.
Right.
Like that makes me more angry. Like, who is this guy even anybody? Like, oh, because idiot and Buffalo doesn't know who I am. I'm a nobody. Like,
right.
You're an idiot. Like that makes me more angry that there's just such stupidity out there. When someone nails it, I'm like, oh, good on you. Yeah.
Okay. They gotta really right.
You really? Well, we'd probably get along.
It has to be clever enough.
Right. Well, yes. that's the joy of making a joke. It's got to be more
funny than it is offensive.
Absolutely. If it's more funny than offensive, you win.
Totally.
Always.
I mean, that's the thing with your birth. That's why I'm saying to circle it back to your birthday, call it the worst day of the year. Like, not offensive.
No, if I took offense to that,
you wouldn't be a comedian, or you'd be a bad comedian.
I'd be a bad person. Okay, welcome back to the You Up podcast. We're very excited to be joined by a very special guest, but also a friend of the pod, a fop, so to speak, as we call them. Emma Willmann, as I forget.
Martha
Bunker. Who the fuck is this? Emma Willmann, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming back. We had such a good time with you last time, and I'm excited to get back into it. I mean, you host Ask Men Anything.
Yes, I do.
A Betches production. Such a great podcast. I know our listeners will, if they're not listening already, will definitely love it. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what you do there?
I'll tell you what I do there. So I interview men and I talk to them about what it's like to be a man in today's day and age, and I get to all the questions that maybe someone else wouldn't want to ask. By someone, in my experience, it's been straight women that straight women wouldn't want to ask and be in the room to listen to, but this way they get to be like a fly on the wall in the conversation and the comfort of their own home.
I said it when you came on, when the show was first coming out, that pun intended. So no, when the first premiered, I was like, you're the perfect bridge for this conversation.
It's a friendly space. It's definitely not like a gotcha moment at all.
Right. And these guys, I've been on the show. It's fantastic. Had a blast. And you know, we've had conversations off mic.
Sure.
You know, we're talking about, you know, women. You know, we're talking about dating. We're talking about, you know, fucking chicks. Well, you know, so, you know.
Well, Emma, can I ask you, as a lesbian, do you feel like you actually care what men think?
I do, very much. Absolutely.
Do you give a fuck?
I mean, I only care because I have to have sex with them.
You gotta deal with it.
I totally care. I mean, I'd say it's a very individual situation where it's like, maybe I care, I guess I care in the sense of like looking at it like I care sans maybe what they would be. I don't care so much what they would be attracted to.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Although I do care if a guy thinks something looks good, but I wouldn't care if it's like in a sexual way.
Well,
I would have.
I guess, is it more an anthropological type of thing that you care about? You're like, oh, this is how a human works.
Yes, I'd be interested in like, I'll look at it more, this sounds so silly, but I'll look at it more as like the individual. Like I won't get like, I would say, because I'm only attracted to, it has to be queer women, but they definitely have to be gay, queer, lesbian, bi, but have no hint of it in the stereotypical sense.
Okay.
So from that subset, I'll get more nervous.
Straight passing.
Yes.
Okay.
But I care, of course, what like straight people and straight women and men think, but it's like, it's the different, I wouldn't get like the same type of like, I wouldn't get like, there's no way, I feel almost bad saying this, there's no way a guy would give me butterflies. I mean, maybe if Jared was like, oh, I brought you a giant cake, I wouldn't get butterflies.
No, but
from that. You know,
I think
I feel excited.
But not, right, yeah, but not lust.
I
yeah,
think
and that'd be for the cake, probably.
It's always interesting to me, though. Like, I think straight men like hearing from lesbian women because you go, oh, I'm not crazy for feeling this way. You know, like where you're like kind of given like, this isn't a guy being an asshole guy. This is someone in a relationship. You know, it's like a thin line between like, are these relationship issues I'm having? Especially in 2024. And I think that's what Emma's doing such a great job on her show is you go, is this a relationship issue I'm having? Or am I wrong? You know, in the societal way things should be going, you know.
I think guys are having a harder time than I realized too. I didn't realize that. One thing that's been like coming up from this is because it's a tricky balance too, where it's like, you know, I'm seeing now that guys are getting more affected in a negative way by the patriarchy than I would have as an individual, because it's like you go out and they're, you know, for all intents and purposes in power, and then when you go home, the one-on-one, that's where you're getting the brunt of it. Because a lot of them are like, I don't feel a safe space to communicate. And it's like, or I don't know how, I haven't been taught to do that. And then seeing, it's been like every single guest is like, that was one thing that only recently I felt even kind of a space to do.
And on a macro, sorry to interrupt, but on a macro sense, it's like someone could go, boo-hoo!
Right.
Well, can you give me an example? Like of what you mean by that? Like,
so they'll be like, I don't feel like I can reach out to a friend if I'm having a problem. And I'm like, damn. Like the most basic human interaction stuff. They're like, I feel like I'll be judged, or I'll feel like I'll be seen as less than if I'm saying I'm scared, or crying is a big one.
Right.
Or even like, what does it mean? What does masculinity even mean where you're doing it but not being part of a problem? Yeah. And then just like the structure of even trying to communicate, I didn't realize was like such something that they had like a lot of like, they're up against a lot with that.
Totally, because I don't think men are often like taught how to communicate in the way that's now really highly valued. I forget who I was talking to, who was talking about how like we do prioritize like verbal communication, but not everyone communicates that way.
Sure.
Like that's not how everyone thrives in verbal communication, but that's sort of like seen as like the only way to communicate. But plenty of people communicate differently, and that's just not seen as valid.
Right. And it's like, also imagine if you haven't been taught to communicate, then how do you like relay yourself back to yourself?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about how like much of a trap feeling that would be too. And I was surprised because a lot of guys are saying like, you know, also like I'll hear a big emphasis on time. So they're like, when someone explains something, then I need time. Right. And then you go on a macro level, you go, I could see how that'd be frustrating for someone here because they go, time, like you're the one in power. And then I'm supposed to also give you time. But then when you wiggle it down to the individual, this guy is just there being vulnerable. Like, I really wish I could just have more time to understand when my wife gave me some feedback.
Right.
You know, so then that was something I was not anticipating, to see how the individual is having more of a hard time than I realized. Mm-hmm. But I've also seen, when I've said the name of the show a couple times, I go, no, your show's called Ask Men Anything. Now, why the hell would you want to do that? So I'll have to explain, because they're like, they get asked everything all the time. And I'm like, well, this is more zeroed in on getting a perspective on the bigger things, and then also like little interactions too.
I think it's incredible. You're like solving the battle of the sexes, because all these things are seen like, you know, like the way men do things are worse, when really it could be just different.
Right.
You know?
I wonder how testosterone affects the brain too, because I had someone that went through a transition.
Makes it huge.
You got a big brain. Got a big brain.
Solves all your problems.
That's right.
There is something about wanting size too that seems to come up with guys, like wanting like
be bigger.
Big. Got to be big.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because you interview gay men and you interview straight men.
Yes.
Do you feel like there's a fundamental difference in the way that those two types of men think about things?
I'll tell you this. This was one thing we noticed. So we do this segment still sometimes called Apology Surrogate, where it'll be like, we can't get the guy who wronged you to apologize, but we can get a guy to apologize.
I love that.
So then someone will write in with this happened, and then the idea of it is the guy then just jumps to apologizing. And I noticed, actually, Jared did an amazing apology.
Oh, thank you.
Jared, and then all the different gay guys right away were like, I'll apologize. But I noticed the straight guys, we got spoiled with Jared because he was our first guest. So he did the apology.
Everyone was like that.
You took it.
You've also been apologizing on this podcast for
years.
Yeah.
You got it down.
Yeah.
Because you were like, you read it, you go, okay, let me tell you, this is where this was inappropriate, apology. And a lot of the times the straight guys would struggle with that. They would be like, oh, well, we don't know why he did this, and maybe she shouldn't. And that was interesting that they would have such a hard time.
The gay men
guys right away.
Also more interesting.
I
Teach
guess
a class.
Apologizing is big.
Yeah.
Apologizing
the correct way is like
huge.
a fundamental life skill.
Relationship saver.
Yeah, I think if you understand how to apologize correctly.
I know, because I phone mine in a lot. I throw out, I'm sorry too quick. You do that?
I do that too. I think it's kind of like you're kind of just trying to like fix something like immediately.
Keep it moving.
But it's not, if it's not a genuine
it's
apology.
Not sincere.
It doesn't really solve anything. And so I think that like it's really like taking ownership of something you messed up is very difficult for, I think, people of all genders.
And saying how you're not going to repeat it.
Yes.
Because I do a lot of careless stuff. So my girlfriend will be like, how could you do this again? We've talked about it so much. And then I go, I'm sorry. I didn't listen.
Right. It's like, I'm sorry, go away.
Right.
And I think men, when you confront them, especially about maybe dating stuff, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, just go, like, just get out of here.
Right. And a lot of men are fixers. So like, a sorry's a fix. That's the key to get you to go away.
My classic is like, well, what are you sorry about? Oof. Why are you sorry?
I'll be right back. I'll let you know.
Why are you sorry? What are you sorry about?
Right.
What is
good questions for people to take home with them.
That's a tough one. What are you sorry about?
Living.
Right. Me, I'm sorry about myself. I screwed up. I say I didn't listen a lot. And they go, what didn't you listen to? And I'm like, oh, the thing that you said, I messed up. I screwed up.
I mean, the secret sauce to a good apology is, I think, explaining why you fucked up.
Why?
Which is tough.
Insight, and then also action, saying what you're going to do. Because I've apologized with insight enough, because now my relationship's 3 years. So for about 2 years, that worked. Where I said, I did that because when I was a kid, I was alone a lot. I would go to that. Because then she'd go, oh.
I would love that. Yeah.
Not a lot of men are going to go that way.
I would love that.
To say I was alone a lot?
No, it started in the womb.
That helps.
Like it would help, but
That's
I think
a good
a lot
one.
of guys would go,
oh, we would love
I
that.
did that because they would go more earlier. I don't know if they're going to go therapy.
Oh, I'll go way back to kindergarten and go, when I went to this, in kindergarten, I was separated because I learned to read slowly. And it's like, get out of jail for like a month on that.
That is like actually the dream would be to have my husband like like cite some sort of childhood thing, so I don't have to do it for him.
But then the issue is, it's like if you do that, then you also have to change your behavior too.
Right.
Because my girlfriend would be like this is a big one with loading the dishwasher. So I do it wrong all the time. And then finally she was like, why do you do this wrong? Like, I'm going to try not to take this personally. And then I was like, she was like, did your parents never show you how to do this? And I was like, yes, my parents didn't show me.
Yeah,
and
that was
you
a
know,
freebie.
and she was like, and did you not clean up after yourself? And I was like, I'm spoiled. And then she's like, okay, got it. And
I'm spoiled. I'm an idiot. My parents didn't teach me anything.
No, but like
I don't know where I am right
the best
now.
is that like she gave you the
She is-
narrative.
Right.
you know what?
She gave you the narrative.
That's
You
true.
just had to like say.
What do you
just had
do?
to agree.
What do you do?
spoon-feeding.
What do you do with the dishwasher?
I put the knives in the upside down. Apparently, you're supposed
knives upside down.
Yeah, they're supposed to be sharp side up.
I have
Yeah,
to say,
that seems counterintuitive to put them upside down.
the dishwasher.
Maybe if she's doing it wrong, I'll be elated. I'd love to go back home with that.
That's a big fight I have too. I wonder why the dishwasher creates so much chaos.
What do
your
you
husband-
put things? What, you don't like?
I do it perfectly. I don't like when
do say so
Mike
yourself.
does it because he doesn't maximize the room. He'll put something over like the whole thing and then you can't fit anything else in there. So then I have to take it out.
Do you wash
rearrange.
things before you put it in the dishwasher?
I do that too, and he doesn't.
Never in my life,
Never
but I
in
had
your
to
life.
start. I had to
What about you?
start.
I think I do wash things before the dishwasher.
Does your
but
dishwasher
You
smell?
rinse.
I don't have a dishwasher
Okay, there
anymore.
you
It's
go.
been a long time.
you don't have a
no,
dishwasher?
I'm hand washing
Wow.
stuff. That's right.
How often do
I
you hand
cook,
wash?
I clean, I babysit. No, I don't let it stack up as much, but it really depends on when
You
you
don't
catch
eat
me.
at home much, right?
Oh, I've been cooking lately. That's
good for
maybe
you.
why.
We're gonna have to get into this
I
later.
told you I haven't drank, and I've been cooking. I've been grocery shopping. I think
Domesticated
I've been off the road, so like
That's
that's
huge.
huge. So like
Wow.
if you're home for more, if I'm home for like more than 7 days, like let's go to a grocery store. I told you.
What do you cook?
I've been making these like stir fry things, just grilled chicken
Love
with
a stir fry.
vegetables
Yeah.
and
Easy.
Pour a little peanut sauce on there, and then
Wow.
we're good to go.
You
A
ever
lot
do it inside the oven? That scares the shit.
inside the oven.
Putting it in, baking it, never in my life.
I've never heard of such a thing.
It's supposed to be easy and it's supposed to make the house not smell like fish. But I
Oh,
can't,
really?
Yeah, because I always cook the fish on top of the stove.
Like an air fryer?
I'll use I always fry it. Everything has to be on top of the oven. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The stir fry.
That's
but
me.
In the oven, I am very hesitant to do that.
I'm just worried about it not turning off forever.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I'm just like sitting there.
I don't know what's going on.
I
in
think
there.
the oven's on, even though I haven't turned it
Oh,
on.
I'm
in
now
years.
as we're having this conversation, I'm having anxiety that my oven is on.
How often do you guys have the dishwasher conversation?
I would say once a month at least.
Yes.
Once a
Same.
month.
Once a month, yes.
Because I mean,
I'm
it's
so
like,
happy to be single.
It's a regular
so
thing.
happy
Yeah.
right
And then
now.
it's like, and then it becomes, it's not necessarily about the dishwasher, it becomes about listening.
yes.
So, listen,
But I listened,
I'm-
I just forget.
we.
But I did listen. I was
I need
listening.
to FaceTime you into my next
I forgot.
dispute. Yeah.
I'm listening. I just forget. That's a good excuse. No.
I'm listening. I just forget. It's the first time. First
Yeah,
couple
you can
times.
do it.
Forget
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
3. I can milk a forget up to like 7.
7
Oh, wow.
I forget.
Okay.
If I
you must
really-
have charm.
You are in.
I
quite a
try.
loving relationship.
I try. You know what? Here's another thing. I've noticed if you do other things to make someone feel like recognized, like I'm really into do the rubbing, foot rubbing, back
Oh, yeah.
rubbing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of men do that too. Well, Michael, if I just am getting irritated with him, he'll be like, "Do you want a hug?"
He's treating you like a horse.
Right.
Easy. Okay. Listen, let's get to the email.
Let's
we want
do
to
it.
Yes.
introduce
Yeah.
this email. Now, listen, part of the reason we invited Emma on is, one, we want to showcase your fabulous podcast.
Thank you.
Go listen, Ask Men Anything. If you need me as your appetizer into the Emma Willmann world, go listen to my episode. Then you'll
First
bring,
episode, right?
I'm the
First
first
episode,
So
yep.
that's right. So, but we have been getting emails. Well, here's our issue.
Let's hear it.
It's Jordana and I, two straight people, talking about dating and relationships
Right.
and the modern technology that gets involved. Sometimes, every now and again, we get emails from the LGBTQ plus community.
You missed one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
I thought I
joking. I'm
nailed it.
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I felt like I was doing a gymnastics
Now you
routine.
get an
Yeah.
electric shock.
I'm sorry.
He was. I don't know.
Did
if
I
you-
miss one?
They post these on YouTube. You got to watch because Jared was starting to do what the conductors do.
Right.
LGBT.
LGBTQ plus community. Did I get it?
I think it's now IA, but
I thought the plus is all encompassing.
I think the plus is literally.
Right?
I think that's literally what the plus is. So
Right?
yes,
It's like an
Okay.
etc.
right. Once you add a
Please.
plus,
Yes.
The plus, yeah.
He's got-
to the LG plus. No,
plus.
okay. So it was meant in spirit. I want to include as anyone who wants to be included.
Totally.
Okay. Now, this is why we don't get these emails. Okay, this is exactly why. We just had a 5-minute discussion
because of the
on whether
poise
I
and
said.
grace that we show.
Here's the thing: we get a lot of feedback of like, why aren't you doing emails from our community? And it's like, when we do get them, I don't want to speak for Jordana. I'll speak for myself. It's not my experience. Who am I to say to speak from this? I'm speaking from when we give advice, when we talk, I don't give advice. I give how I feel, and maybe it's around where the person who looks and has a background like me might feel as well.
Right.
So we wanted to answer these questions. So we get less of these questions for that because we don't answer very many. And it turns into this chicken or egg thing. If we're getting less of the questions, we're talking about it less. We don't want to do that. This is a dating podcast. We want to include everybody. We want to answer questions. We might be able to answer it, but at the end of the day, someone might say, well, you don't understand, which I could never deny. So we wanted Emma, we wanted to invite you on. And
I'd love
hoping,
to do that.
Okay,
I would love to answer any. I'd love to be a queer correspondent of sorts. Take any. Because it makes so much sense too. It's like it's your lived experience. So you're saying I don't feel totally comfortable offering my lived experience for something I haven't lived.
Right.
And it's also like someone can decide to take something as advice or not, but you want to have the context there.
Absolutely. And, this is about respect,
Sure.
and respecting that, your issue is your issue. And we want to make sure someone, again, lived experience.
Right.
Can
As much
speak
as
to it.
one can't, because it's like my lived experience is very much my lived experience. Of course I can't speak
for everyone.
Yes. Like I'm, I am.
Well, no one can speak for everyone, but you can speak to it more than.
And thank God. Imagine that.
I know.
Anyone who thought they could would be a real problem.
Right. I mean, there are people who try to.
Yes,
who
they
try
do.
to say that they do.
Go on TikTok
and it's
every
quite
day.
something. Mm-hmm.
This is for us to have a more 360-degree conversation than Jordana and I could. So, okay, I'm excited that you said you're okay with being our queer correspondent.
I'd be honored.
We want people to keep writing in. If you are looking for advice or perspective on your issue, send it in, uup@betches.com. We have an email.
Great.
That we're going to go over right now. We're going to read it. But in the future, if you're out there and you had things that you've held back from sending in, know that we have the community to bring in to answer your question.
I'd be honored to
fully.
be
So
representing a member of the community. Absolutely.
love
Absolutely.
it. So we're happy Emma's here. We're pumped. Everyone go follow Emma. Go, go, go.
Thank you.
Let's read the email.
All right. Dear J&J, I'm a huge fan of the pod. It's the first topic of the conversation in my group chat every Sunday and Wednesday, and my friends and I cannot wait to see Jared's New York show last weekend. I had a strange dating experience recently that I can't stop thinking about, and I would love to hear your takes on it. I, 26-year-old female, went on a first date with a guy, 28, from a dating app that went much better than your average first date. We had a lot in common, and there was good chemistry. On the second date, the conversation also flowed really well, although we got into some deep topics, and I started to feel like his personality might be a bit intense for me. He mentioned that he had previously been in 2 4-year-long relationships, and he's a romantic type. I'm not opposed to a serious relationship, but I got the sense that he was looking for things to progress more quickly than I would prefer. That being said, I invited him back to my apartment, and we ended up having sex.
I guess it worked.
Yeah.
This guy.
I'm going to start saying that being said in between every
That
big
being
jump.
Said, and then I did the complete opposite of
Right.
what one would
That
imagine
being,
after
long
that
story
comment.
short, not allowed back in a Kroger. And you're like, whoa.
As we were laying in bed post-sex, he brought up the fact that he also sleeps with men. He said this in a casual way as if it were something I already knew, except this was not listed on his profile and he hadn't mentioned it before. I didn't want to overreact or seem judgmental, so I didn't really respond to this and changed the topic. He later proceeded to refer to himself as queer several times in conversation, again acting as if he had been saying this all along. We texted a bit the next day, and then he followed me on Instagram. I saw that an old friend from college already followed him, so I texted her to ask if she knew him well and told her we had gone out. She had worked with him a few years prior and had all nice things to say, but was surprised I was asking since he had a boyfriend when they worked together. Given how well the 2 dates had gone, the fact that he was queer was not an automatic deal breaker for me. However, the more I thought about that night, the more I started to feel like he had deliberately hid the fact that he was queer from me until immediately after we had sex. I can understand not wanting to list yourself as queer on a dating profile out of a legitimate fear that it could turn some women off. I can also understand wanting to withhold that information until you're past the first few dates and have built trust with the person you're dating. On the other hand, this guy has clearly been out for years and seems totally comfortable with his sexual orientation. Being queer actually seems like a pretty important part of his identity, so I'm pretty surprised that he felt the need to hide it. I can't help but wonder if he wanted to share this information with me, but wanted to make sure we had sex first so that it wouldn't change my level of attraction to him. The fact that he so easily withheld this information also makes me wonder if he's been dishonest about anything else. Over the last couple of days, I've been trying to reflect on my internalized biases and think about why this really bothers me.
This is unbelievable. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, it's just so interesting. This is an email that could only be written in 2024.
Yeah.
You know, like the way it's all turned on its head. Like,
But she seems very self-aware.
Really trying to see where it's coming from.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's
Kudos.
just so interesting. Yeah.
No, totally. And it feels very, I agree, it feels very 2024.
It feels like very not toxic, I want to say too. Like it's like she's not reacting out of anger. It feels like
she feels like an everyday run-of-the-mill liberal person with progressive thoughts that is now like, oh my God, I'm being taken advantage of, but also I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be too judgy. It's just very interesting. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm like,
no, definitely. I'm on the fence about whether I want to continue seeing this guy for a number of reasons, mainly because of how he seems to want to rush into a serious relationship. Part of me wants to tell him that I didn't appreciate that he kept some pretty significant information about his sexuality private until right after we had sex, but I also don't want him to think that I'm ending things because he's queer, as I really think I might have felt differently if he had been upfront about this earlier on. What do you guys think? Is it important to share your sexual orientation with someone you meet from a dating app, or is it my internalized homophobia showing and it's none of my business? If you were in this situation with a partner of either sex, would you be able to get past this, or would you worry about what other things they might be hiding? I'm trying to be open-minded and considerate, but could really use some other opinions. Looking forward to your takes. Hopelessly hetero, Betch. Hopelessly hetero.
well, this is so interesting.
so interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a great email.
Great email.
great
So much
email.
appreciation for the consideration here too.
Emma, what do you think?
I think
Top of mind.
so. Top of mind. There's a few things that went through my mind right away. It's, I think that it might be with the timing of, you want to be very considerate when you're like introduced. I always err on the side of, share anything applicable to someone about, because it's saying like it might turn some women off. Well, then, those wouldn't be, easier said than done, but those wouldn't be the women for him. So if he's just trying to sleep with as many people as possible, of course you don't need to disclose any parts of yourself because you're just trying to, and be upfront about that. I'm trying to just have sex. But if it is like you're going on dates and it sounds like he's looking for more, then you would think he would want to line up with someone that accepts him. So to me, the main issue is that he brought it up right after they had sex, in the sense that that is sensitive information. So if it was something he was going to bring up, he should maybe not necessarily have to bring it up before. I do think that's preferable. I would want to know before, but I think that there's a better way to do it if you do bring it up after. I think bring it up right after you've had sex, I think, is not sensitive to the situation, and I do think that is a red flag.
You said something very specific. You think that if this guy was just out there looking for sex, that makes it more okay to not say
Then it would make more sense. Then it would make more sense if he's just trying to, and I'm not saying that's right, but then it would make more sense that he's just trying to like say whatever he needs to say to hook up with people.
Right.
Not that that's right. You know what I mean? But like the more you disclose about yourself, you're doing that to create intimacy. So then you would be doing that. It seems like if he is disclosing this, it'd be because, I would say even in an ideal world, if it is just for sex, he should say it too.
Right, because I think even saying it after, like, that gives you an out from having to like feel uncomfortable about ending things. Like,
True.
you're kind of
But they should get the out before, I think.
Yeah. Well,
there's a spectrum between being an innocent mistake of, I guess I didn't say it, to I said it after so that I put you in a position where you feel uncomfortable saying anything back to me.
You never want someone to feel hoodwinked, or that they didn't have all the information they would have needed to make a serious decision.
Right.
Because I also understand I guess what I meant when it was like, if you're just trying to hook up with people, then if it seems like a more transactional thing, then you don't necessarily expect to know everything about the person. But if you go out to dinner first and you have a date or it's a second date, then you're going to assume, okay, I've got information about this person here. We're exchanging other information than just sexual. So you can assume that you have the information that it seems like he was not giving. Because to me, that would be pretty top line information. But I could see the safety concern too. But then why go out on a date with someone if you don't feel safe with them for him?
Well, here's my question to you is like, do you think, because I could see where in her head she's like battling internally. She's like, okay, like, yeah, I think it's messed up that he revealed this to me right after sex, but also do you think it's messed up that she's even thinking that's a messed up revelation?
I don't think so at all, because if it's like, wouldn't it be nice if, I don't think so at all. I would, because imagine all of a sudden, this is maybe a bad example, but just the second after you have sex with someone, you go, oh, I'm obsessed with Magic the Gathering. That's what I do every single weekend. You go, oh, we've been talking these 2 days and you even mention that. Your brain goes on a spiral. Why didn't they mention it?
Right.
Someone texts hi with a period and they go, why they do the period? Like, we're going to analyze things. So that to me would be, also I'd be wondering too, because I'd be like, oh, why did you bring it right up after we had sex?
Yes.
Was there something that, of course your mind's going to go there too.
Yes, and it's related to sex. And
it's related to sex.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that like right after you have sex in bed is a very vulnerable position to be in. Just like that, you've just like let someone into your body. And you kind of feel like, and I think that I agree with you. Like if he told her after they had sex, but maybe like on the next date, I think totally different story.
Right. Was saying, hey, there's something I want to tell you. I didn't share. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the why.
Being thoughtful about it.
I didn't know how to navigate this, and I really like you, and I wanted you to like me, and I didn't want it to taint you questioning if you were attracted to me. That I would really get. And so I just wanted to let you know that I am queer, and I've been in relationships with men. I feel like...
Well, even if, let's say someone said like, I guess it's like kind of like, because I'm trying to think of a comparison, right? Of something else someone could say.
Yeah, it is tough to think of that.
Well, I like the Magic the Gathering thing, but look, I could give another one.
But even bigger.
You said that you like straight presenting women.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you slept with a woman who wasn't straight presenting and then were in bed with that woman and was like, you're not someone I usually sleep with. You know, like, I don't know.
I would never, because the whole
You would
thing,
never say that. It'd be uncomfortable.
First of all, it'd be Armageddon. I can't even imagine what would bring us to this situation. It would just be the end of the world and we'd be in a house on fire. But if the line has been crossed where physical interaction has taken place, I feel the most important thing is the person to feel desired, respected. You would never say, you never look at them and go, well, this was a first appearance wise. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't do that either. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, there's a thin line, because she asked, it's my internalized homophobia. Like, you go, I think there's a thin line between type and homophobic.
I do get that, understanding the internalized homophobia when it gears towards men, because there's so many things where it's like I've met a lot of, I know a few queer or bi women that they themselves are queer and bi, but they wouldn't be with bi or queer men.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. This is the...
You know what I'm saying?
That's the double standard.
Double standard. And I'm like, because I was like, what if it's like a super mass guy and he's like, I'm bi and, excuse my very graphic French. It's like, he's like super macho and he's like, you know what? Excuse me. He goes, a hole's a hole. So I'm going to pound out whatever's in front of me. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, oh shit. Like, if you're afraid that it's like he would be more, not as masculine or like whatever that is, that's the fear of not wanting to be with a bi guy, but he's saying he's the most top dog there. He's like, I'm only a top.
Sorry, because that's the thing that she's, I think, that makes her think it's internalized homophobia. It's like, am I telling him that he disclosed something negative to me?
Right.
Am I saying that his having been with men is a negative thing that I should have been aware of because I'm saying it's negative?
Right.
And she's saying like, I think that's where she's kind of like, am I the crazy one here?
Well, and she wants to believe that if this came up before, she would have the same sexual attraction to this person that she did on the date, which she can't say for sure.
Which is fair.
Which is fair. I don't think there's anything unfair about that. This is the ick, though. Like, there's a lot of people that give feedback to the ick, and they say, and it sounds like it's a little bit hypocritical because it's like men doing kind of not manly things. A lot of those ick things are like a guy sitting crisscross applesauce, a guy hopping over a puddle. All of those things are like not manly, quote unquote, and it kind of outs women for going, yeah, you're not as progressive as you'd like to believe you are, which is okay. I think is okay because it's like this is taste versus hate. You know, it's not hate.
Right.
Well, it kind of brings us back to that conversation we've had years ago about like sexual preference versus sexual racism. It's like sometimes it's not always like so clear.
Right.
You know, what is societally placed inside you versus like what are you actually attracted to?
Oh my God. Things with beauty standards, all of
Yeah.
that. That's so put in our heads constantly.
Totally.
But also you're like, you know, what he did wrong, in my opinion, is he didn't even give her a chance to sit face to face with who he really is.
And they had been on dates, so it does feel like he's setting the tone of, I am disclosing to you information about me.
Right. So, you know, I think she's got to be less hard on herself. Like, I feel for her, but like, to me, like, you know.
Is it a deal breaker? I would say it's actually not a deal breaker.
I think
if all else were great, I agree.
Because it is a tricky thing for him to navigate. And I mean,
but she has to say, I think she should say something.
I think she should absolutely. He didn't know. Let's give him, if we give him the benefit of the doubt, it was he didn't know how to bring it up. Maybe he's new back into being with women and he just didn't know what to say or when to say it. So that's giving him the real benefit of the doubt. If he was like, I'm not going to tell her this because then I think she wouldn't even be attracted to me. That also is like people do. I mean, God knows, I'm not going to on a first, second, or even 6 months in be like, hey, just so you know, I never am going to do the dishwasher right. You know what I mean? Like,
you're going to wait till they're locked in. To
and then it's like the question of, okay, but what was okay to not say and what is okay to say?
Well, he's not even letting her be more turned on by the idea. Like,
she might be into it.
She might be into the way he explains it.
True.
Like, let's say he goes.
Kind of the thing about like the dishwasher. This is why I do this.
Right.
Like a vulnerability thing.
Right.
I'm bi. That was and that was I'm more about energies, and your energy is speaking to me. Like that could be a whole.
And I was scared you wouldn't like she said, like you said in the beginning, like I was scared that you wouldn't be interested in me if I told you that. So I felt like I waited. Right.
We've all got a bunch of those things.
I guess when it's a man and a woman, and this is the double standard, but not like I don't feel it. It's an unfair one. Like it's just the way it is. Like if a woman was with me and then turned to me and was like, I'm actually bi. My last
right. It's like, aren't we all right?
Right.
Well, societally, like a woman who's been with women is there's like a hotness to that societally, and like societally, like what you're trained to be, the more masculine, like one of the pillars of masculinity. That you see like reinforced in society is sort of a rejection of
it's always
gayness.
And
I mean, there's like you have to prove that you're like that you
totally.
are like heterosexual is like a societal thing.
No one
that's
said
ingrained.
that's so lesbian. They go, that's so gay.
True.
That was the
when they picture it too. When it gets sexualized, it's usually through the lens of what would be for a male gaze too. Because then I'll think it's like it's like if you're picturing having a threesome, you're usually picturing two types of women that you would be attracted to. But what if someone's like, and introducing my friend, the captain of the rugby team, and she comes in and she's like, "What's up?"
That's a famous SNL sketch.
Right. That's not, is it? I would love to see because
it's a funny sketch.
It's like Chris Farley comes in as the butch lesbian, like, "Let's go." That's not what people are usually picturing.
If you bring up the SNL sketch, it's like I want to be with two women, and it's like it's not what he was imagining.
Right.
So. It's and this is all like again, is that internalized homophobia?
Sure,
or is that,
probably. Like
I don't know. To
but
me,
also we like info. Info's important.
It's more like the. I mean, you can't deny the culture and society that you're like brought up in, and whether your thoughts are. I mean, no one knows for sure which of their thoughts are entirely their own, or also tainted or contributed to by the environment that they grew up in, right? And I think even just acknowledging that is something.
Yes, because even like she's. Like looking at it to be like, okay, I do not want to come from a place of hate. I want to understand why I feel that way. I think that impetus for the quest of figuring this out shows an understanding that is really, respectable, thoughtful. Yeah.
What if there was you sleep with a guy and then you're in bed together and you're like, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, I go roller skating, roller skating with my roller skating group. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm trying to
I'd
think
be
of
like, you didn't disclose that before.
right. Like but I guess
Right.
that's
I
not the
think
same.
so.
I don't know if
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, because it's like she's seeing it as a negative thing. That's why she feels like she's being homophobic.
I don't even
she's
know if
like,
she's
he
trying
didn't
to.
Well, what if he was
She
like,
might not
what
even
if
see it as. It almost like she doesn't seem like she's seeing it as negative though. She's more, or I guess that's what she's trying to fight against.
she's
Right.
fighting again.
Or
yeah.
like of importance.
What if
Right.
she says,
Right. Or she's saying that it's important and therefore like something to be disclosed.
I do
when-
think it is important though. I actually, the more we talk about it, the more I would err. I don't think it's a deal breaker, and I do think she should give him another chance and definitely talk about it. But I do think in a perfect world, I do think that it is. I know personally, like I can say, oh, this would be the ideal situation, and I wish that it wouldn't be something I would say I would really want to know beforehand, but I would want to know that.
Right. I think I would want to know as well.
what if they had a family? Is that
I would wanna
similar?
know that as
You don't-
well.
No, but
Yeah.
what if you slept with someone they didn't say? I
Oh,
don't know. I'm
they
trying
didn't
to
say
stay
they had
away
kids?
from it being a negative
I
thing.
think it'd be,
Right.
You know, I'm
I
trying to.
think it'd be weird if someone didn't mention that they had 2 kids until we were
Two
in
kids.
bed. Until we were in bed.
That's a good
naked next
comparison.
to
That's
each
a good
other.
one.
Right.
Right.
Where it's not like again, it's not like a negative thing, but it's something that's like would be nice for me to know before I did something that I
Right.
consider vulnerable with you.
Right.
Or if they also even said, I feel like that even someone then saying I have 2 kids would almost be more comfortable because it's not necessarily high. Like if they were like, I have 2 kids and I always am just with women that have kids or something. I mean, that sounds a little weird, but you know what I mean? Like where it's something where you're like right away in your head, like, oh, this is throwing a loop in of something.
Well, I have 2 kids and I live in the suburbs, and they were in New York City for the night. You're having a great
Right.
date. I don't know how that doesn't come up where you live.
I
but
do think the timing of that would be a little odd if it was like right after.
you
Even
go,
in the
I got to get back to Springfield, New
Right.
Jersey.
What if
Right.
what if you slept with someone and they were like, Jared, actually, I live in Hoboken. I know.
Hey, why can't you just be gay or something? Hey.
Right.
They don't tell you until you're in your vulnerable.
Oh, why?
Post-sex
yeah,
position.
I'm like,
What?
ooh, you
But
took advantage of me.
Why should
Right.
it matter?
Right.
But then you're on 2 dates and a bunch of info because it's like, wait a minute, we talked about what we went and talked about watching Saltburn for 2 hours. You didn't
Right.
think that this was more important than talking about Saltburn? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Did I even get to know you? Did I get to
Right.
know the real version of you? I again, like, this is a big part of their lives.
I think it's
Whether
really
they want-
important, and I would really err on. I would be much more comfortable. I think it's an important thing to say. In an ideal world, we'd say it first, and also in an ideal world, it'd be like, and you know what? And if someone's not okay with that, then they're not the person for you, and that's good for all parties involved. You get to save some time.
Yeah, you're
Right.
also going to learn, how they have this conversation. This is, again, why I love
Real learning moment.
going on Emma's podcast is like, we're talking this out. It's okay to
Right,
ask
love
questions.
to get his thoughts.
Well, this guy, if you go to him and you're like, hey, I felt a little bit like uneasy about finding out about your sexuality after we had sex. If he's
Right.
like, whoa, there's your homophobia showing, you're like, you're not really dealing with someone who wants to converse
Right.
with you.
Right.
Well, that's
You're
like
learning
that-
everything about how they handle things.
Right. Well, that would be the same as like I felt weird. You didn't tell me you had kids until after it. Well, why?
Whoa,
you had kids?
anti-kid.
Right,
yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's
I wonder-
very interesting.
You know, I remember that from Love Is Blind. Actually, I feel like this exact scenario almost came up on season 1 of Love Is Blind.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember.
It's a long time ago. Do you remember?
Oh, I do remember this.
And someone was by and didn't say it.
So yeah, like the guy was by, he didn't say it, and then when she found out, she was like, she asked him about it, and he like freaked out that she like hinted that she was upset that he
I
didn't
remember
disclose
this.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
What was it? After the engagement.
I mean, after the engagement, like yeah, the Love Is Blind engagement, but yes, the engagement.
I think
Right.
it's really important information. I think it's real because this is it is a huge thing. It really is a big. I mean, I guess that's me. For me, it is a big thing. So I'm projecting that to other people, it'll be a big thing. But I think it's a really big. It's a big. If nothing else, it's a big lived experience.
Right.
And
Huge.
Is there a world where someone could say it's not a big thing, and you would think that would be valid?
It's almost like if someone comes out to you, if all of a sudden right now someone just walked by the room and went gay, we'd all go good for you or whatever we'd say. Good, no, we go, oh, no big deal. But the difference would be after some dates and then you've had sex and then they say it. I'd be like, hey, why are you telling me right now? Also,
Right.
I'm so curious how it came up. Like, how did he jump to that. I mean, it sounds like he was
Right.
saying
What was
it
the transition.
like you already knew when he was like, were you in the gay pride this year? He's like, I always do a float for like me and my gay and bi friends or whatever. And you're like, I mean,
the way they describe it is just, it seems like it went from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
Like I would have a lot of questions about it.
I'd have a lot of questions, but I really wouldn't put it as a deal breaker due to the sensitive nature of it.
I mean, the thing that's...
I agree. I think it would be all about how he responded.
Absolutely.
When she asked
I keep thinking of as a straight guy, if I'm with a woman and you find out that she's dated women for years, I wouldn't feel as like tricked,
surprised, right,
or hypothetically tricked, as I feel for this woman.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that says about me.
I think
but
that's the double standard of society. I just think that's like sort of it's more socially acceptable.
Right.
I think
unfairly, but that's the reality.
I guess I'm trying to think too, like this is like a whole other thing, but like say if I was with someone and they were to say, hey, I want to disclose to you that I used to be like I'm male to female, I guess I personally would be comfortable if they hadn't if it was 1 or 2 days. I mean, I always want all the info, but like I would be, that's a big one where it's kind of like that because it's like, okay, safety, and then someone's scared and they don't want to say.
Emma, I have a question for you. I would assume, and this is my assumption, in the lesbian community, you could find out after the fact that you're someone's first woman.
I would definitely. That'd be so important to know. I would really.
Yeah.
So would this? I mean, that's got to be.
Would that be something you'd be upset about not knowing until after you slept with someone?
I wouldn't be upset. I'm like. I think maybe if I was younger, I would have been. I wouldn't be upset now, but I would feel sad for them. Like I would be like, I'm so sorry that you didn't feel comfortable. I would hope that before someone and I were having sex that we would have like covered that. I'm very much into like. I love like sexting and having lots of sexual conversations before we even get there. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I would really, if I hadn't made a safe space for someone to say that, I would really be like, I dropped the ball.
Is there a fear though that you're someone,
Well,
and
again,
again,
what if someone told you they were a virgin right after you slept with them?
I would be a little, I would
feel
sad. I'd be like, oh, I wish I had.
Yeah, but that would also be the kind of thing where it'd be like, it would be good for you to know that.
I would have said I would have gotten us a nicer hotel.
Also, I wouldn't have maybe gone that far with them. I'd have to. There would be a different. Again, as this woman's doing right now, would I made a different decision having all that information?
Right.
But I would say, because we're more accepting of women, going from women to guy or kind of floating, I guess. Is there a fear that you're with a woman that like sees this as a phase, sees this as?
I never have that concern.
Never.
No.
Like, have you seen it?
Right.
No, and I don't mean it like that at all. But
when
that
they come
isn't
down the
something.
island, they stay for the whole time.
It's begrudgingly
But
with
is
me
that-
and the fucked up badly loaded dishwasher to get me out of here. But I
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know, of course, and I know sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's why I wouldn't want to be with." I've heard people say that that's why they wouldn't want to be with like a bi person, or I've heard that is a fear. I think out of like protection of myself, I suss out a situation a lot too. So it's like to me, the most attractive thing is desire. So I've never been someone where it's like I think of like I always have had so many straight female friends too, and I literally think of it like we speak a different sexual language, so there's no attraction there because to me, attraction is about desire. So you want your body and what you're coming in with to be part of the desire. So I feel like I personally would have that sussed out that, of course, like someone could be not into me for a more reasons than I can even think that someone would, except I'm not worried about. It would be the same thing where it's like we're all an experience to somebody. I mean, structurally in society, like since it's not the most dominant sexual, it's not the majority sexually, then it's like I can see there's the added tinge of, I would feel worse if then that person did leave me, for someone who was cisgendered male, then I'd be like, but I haven't, that isn't something that I feel insecure about now. But I wonder if you'd ask me, maybe if like in college, if my girlfriend left me for a cis guy, it would have depended what I was doing on in the back end if I was with someone else.
Right.
But I'll feel that way. Like I remember actually thinking of my girlfriend in college after she was with me. She was with this much bigger, butcher woman, and I did feel very insecure.
Interesting.
Okay.
It really bothered me. It was like, I felt so insecure about it for so many reasons too, because I remember, and I was like, in a way, I felt she was a person of color, and I remember I was like, there was this queer woman of color group on the school she was at, and we were talking, and I was just like, I don't know if there's certain things where maybe I won't be able to understand that or support you, and so I was like, would you ever consider being in this? Because I had a friend in it. And then she got a crush on the leader of it.
Oh, wow. You let her.
And I was like, I understand that. I get that.
Right.
But then also I was like, but what about me? And then they ended up being together. And this person was awesome. Bigger. I always have schmutz in my shirt. Like, no schmutz. I felt but I remember.
Schmutzless.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You always take it
Schmutzless.
so personal.
Yeah.
Usually, like when you compare yourself directly to the next person.
Right. So
someone
I
dates,
would be insecure depending on the guy.
But it's so rarely about the last person.
You
Right.
almost want them to be so different. If it's a guy, you're like, wow, that's their preference. That was a totally different thing. When it's someone,
I would feel that way if they were with a super feminine woman. I'd be like, whoa, jump ship over
right.
there.
This was
Right, went to a whole different, and I'd say,
whole category.
Because I was with someone that did go to very feminine women, and we're still friends on Instagram. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie, this is maybe toxic. I feel a little embarrassed about it.
Really?
But it's
Why?
only because she over the years has gotten more masculine. So
Okay.
now I go, whoa, I don't want people thinking I was with someone who
Oh,
was
it's about
more
you.
masculine.
Okay, so it's not what it says about you. I mean,
Good for her.
Right,
Listen,
yeah.
we're all a little bit homophobic, I guess.
This is what it is. I think so much of it comes down to wanting to be seen in the way that you want to be seen with how you are sexually, to see things pairing
Totally.
up.
I mean,
you know what I
that's-
mean?
That's dating is like 80% ego, right?
Right.
It's like, what does the person I'm dating say about me, and like, what
Yes,
does the next
yes,
person
that's
that
what
they're
it is.
dating say about me?
And
It's-
then so much of the trouble is then it's like politically we're trying to deal through this whole web of actual homophobia, of actual sexism, of all of these
right.
things.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot to unpack.
That's why we're gonna have you back.
Right.
Anytime.
More
we
emails.
We can't unpack it all here. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we'll have you.
Everyone go follow Emma. Everyone go listen to Ask Men Anything. We'll bring Emma back to do an actual
we'll do it.
Ask Men Anything segment.
Yes,
We'll
the
keep this
full-
going. And send in your emails, uup@betches.com, if you want a more 360-degree look at your issue. If you're on the LGBTQ
Thought he was about to
plus
say the spectrum.
IA,
You're on the spectrum.
no, if you're in one of those groups, however you identify, we want
Please.
you
Yes.
to be
The
heard. We
show is
want
for
to
everyone.
go over
Yes.
your situation.
And I'd be so curious what people think of the question that we unpack too, because this is definitely one where it's like this is a conversation.
Yeah.
YouTube. Listen, we have a whole community there. We love the
Go
commenters.
discuss it. We're gonna put it on Instagram.
Yes, and I love the sensitivity that she showed towards a question. I think is something we should all aspire to, and I'll aspire for myself to, be like, how can I be as open and sensitive to this as I can?
Oh,
be?
this was a look in the mirror.
Totally.
Emma, thank you so much. That's our episode. What a great birthday episode.
What a great day. We'll be back on Sunday with the Sunday special.
Boom.
Bye.
Thank you.
The You Up podcast is produced by Jorge Morales-Pico, Sean Kilby, and Candice Maniga. Editing by Jorge Morales-Pico and Shannon Sassone. Social media by Candice Maniga. Guest booking by Ali Friedlander. Be sure to follow @u.up.podcast on Instagram and send us your emails to uup@betches.com.